After saying the old river control structure might not provide much help for the saltwater intrusion, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers now says it could help. The Army Corps could consider a plan to send more water down the Mississippi River by using one of the largest tools at its disposal, the massive old river control structure just north of St. Francisville.
This is still in the idea phase, but the Army Corps could reduce the amount of water flowing down the Atchafalaya River and send more toward New Orleans. To give you a perspective, here's the Mississippi State line, and here, north of St. Francisville, is where these three structures control the river's flow to prevent the river from changing course. By law, the Corps has to send about 30% of the water down the Atchafalaya toward Morgan City. Here's a tighter view of these three structures on Google Earth. There's a hydroelectric plant, an auxiliary plant that's a bit smaller, and then in the middle here, a larger set of gates which operate most of the time. A Corps spokesman says that they're looking at the idea of sending less water down the Atchafalaya. There is another factor here, and that is this is the Red River off to the west, which they also take into account. The Corps says that the recent rise of the Red River, and note that they meet here, the Mississippi flows this way down toward the Atchafalaya, the Red's gotten more rain and the river has been rising, so that gives them the option to look at operating these control structures less, meaning they would send more water down the Mississippi. They have to take into account the environmental effects, the economic impact on communities downriver. And one thing to point out is this is not a decision that the New Orleans Corps District could make. It's farther up the food chain, but the Corps says it wants to evaluate every alternative.